First on the scene was the royal contractor with his architect named Philetus. He brought with him a corps of expert stonemasons, hired apprentices, quickly erected barracks that housed some 4,000 craftsmen. Excavations began at the limestone mountains across the Nile. Some workers cut stones from the bedrock and set them aside for transport. Others built wooden sledges. Others constructed dock facilities, weight arms, and storehouses for supplies. Expeditions brought wood, diamonds for cutting, and granite from Ethiopia. When spring came, the Nile rose, flooding 90% of Egyptian farmland. For 3 months, 100,000 workers were idled from normal farming activities. The royal contractor mobilized these men, broke them into teams of 8 each, with an experienced stonemason to train the men. Other teams were taught the art of navigating barges on the wide river Nile. The gangs set themselves to the task. Each one adopted a name. Ancient quarry marks show names like the Endurance Gang and the Craftsman Gang. Using wedges, rollers, and levers, the men hauled the stones to the waterfront. Weight arms lifted the stones, which traveled in a sling to the barges. Across the river, the teams of finishing experts cut the stones and fit them into a broad causeway leading up to the building site. When the Nile receded each year, the gangs went back to their farms. The masons worked year-round, cutting, measuring, marking, storing the stones that had been brought over. They leveled the site and began cutting the deep passage underground to the pit. For 10 years they worked on the road, the docks, and the site. Team spirit, competition, pride of workmanship, religious fervor, these all contributed to the intense activity. When the preparations were finally done, the major work of construction began. Returning each spring, the huge laboring force delivered 125,000 rough stones to the site. The finished stones from the previous year, each with a number to indicate its position, were moved into place. Each gang of 8 men brought 10 stones across the Nile during their 3-month stint. Each group of 4 masons finished an average of 1 casing stone per month, plus 1 core stone every 3 days, all year round. Chips from the cutting were dumped over the edge of the Giza Plateau, extending it some 100 feet to the north. Some were saved as fill for beneath the wooden ramps. A special team planned the passages. Trial passages still in evidence were cut into the bedrock, showing the planned arrangement. Granite monoliths were cut with bronze saws set with jeweled teeth. Rounded scraps of granite served as counterweights for the levers and saws. Outcroppings or bosses were left on the unfinished stones to hold props, levers, and slings. Sheet iron protected the softer limestone as the heavy granite monoliths were inched along with crowbars. They were rocked back and forth, so only half the weight was lifted at a time. Each new row began with the core. Then the casing blocks were lowered into place on a thin layer of cement. Once in place, the soft white stones were planed smooth. A lip and groove arrangement on each casing stone locked the rows together. If the capstone was placed, a special scaffold would need to be erected at the top of the pyramid.